quality is scarce. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, am I going to be the best at what I do? I'm just going to be lousy. If you are lousy, you'll be thrown in the pack. If you're best, you rise to the top. And as I showed you in the box office scenario or the movie scenario, the first or the best get rewarded. Not in a linear way with the rest, but they get disproportionately rewarded. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you why you need to be exceptional at what you do. And when I mean exceptional, I mean highest level of exceptionalism or highest level of excellence in what you do. The reason is this: the marketplace disproportionately rewards those at the top. The marketplace reserves the juicy part of their reward to those at the very, very top. If you operate at subpar level or mediocre level, you are going to be crushed by the marketplace. And I'm going to show you very quickly. So, a few years back, maybe, let me see, I think a few years back, well, a couple of years back, right? Maybe in the early 2010s, maybe 2010, 2012, 2013, thereabout, I had the opportunity to be sitting on the other side of interviewing candidates for job openings in the role that I was in Dallas, Texas. And in as much as, it's great to be interviewing people and that kind of thing, one of the things that we noticed very quickly is that we were in very busy jobs, right? And whenever there's an employee turnover and we needed to fill the position, it's one of those things that, yes, you want to do, but it's really not fun because it takes you away from your core job, which is, in my case, at that time, I was a lead business analyst with a team. I had a team that reported to me. So it took you away from the core job that you needed to do. And yes, you needed to fill the position because you can't do the job by yourself. And there were deadlines to the things that I needed also to do. So it became, I wanted to interview, I wanted to gain that kind of skill and experience and everything. But you realize that the more you get into shortlisting candidates and all that kind of thing, the more excruciating it became in terms of the burden on my existing work. So I quickly got to know that after going through several applications, CVs, cover letters, doing maybe some phone interviews here and there, bringing candidates in for a first round of interview with a panel and probably the second round to actually dial down to the best candidates. You notice that it takes a toll. It takes a while. But what stood out after we selected the best candidate was that, and I quickly got to know this, and later it was confirmed, I think by a certain book, I think a book I read, I've forgotten. But later on it was like, wow, this book is really telling me the truth. So what you realize is, after you settled on the best candidate, right? So they go through, after you check the CV, their competency, their personality and everything, and you select that this is the candidate that I'm going to go for this position. The delta or the difference between candidate number one that was chosen and the next available candidate in the pecking order, the gap is very wide. The gap most of the time is huge. So let me put it in perspective. From my experience, I noticed that if I were to give, let's say, an empirical number, let's say a percentage of the performance of the candidate that eventually was selected, or candidate number one, let me just put out of, let's say, 0 to 10, and I rate candidate number one, that candidate that we selected for the position, as number 9 on a scale of 0 to 10. Then candidate number 2 typically will not be anywhere near number 9. Candidate number 2 may be a 6 or typically a 5. But candidate number 2 will never know. And actually, candidate number 1, 2 will never know. So, that is why, if you've ever gone through this before, or that's why if you do this to a recruiter, it's actually the recruiter's worst nightmare. That you go through an interview process and then you get selected. And then finally, a day or 2 before you're supposed to start, you just bail out. Call them and say, look, I don't think I'll come. I have a different offer. That's a recruiter's worst nightmare. It's not that they can't get somebody of your level. It's that the pain that they will have to go through to get another person of a number 9 status is excruciatingly painful. Right? It's mega painful. So that's the secret out there. So that's why sometimes too, if you are selected, sometimes depending on your experience, you can be able to negotiate a better package, because typically they will never tell you this. The difference between you and number 2 is very, very wide. That's why it's not like if you decline the offer, they will just go to the next available candidate or the number 2 that they will fall back on. Yes, sometimes it happens. Like if the job needs to be filled so quickly and they can compromise on certain things, they may default to number 2. But that is really, they will do that with actually what I call they will do that actually in a way that it feels like they are being forced to do it. Because most of the time, if candidate number 1 is not available, they will not go to candidate number 2. They will start the whole process again. So in that case, you realize that those who come with the top game, top people get disproportionately compensated. Top people. Another example that you would look at, we'll look at, and I'll show you very quickly, is box office. For instance, there was 2021 worldwide box office earnings for the top 15 movies in the year 2021, right? And this was captured at half the year, right? Not the full year. And 2021 was a horrible year because of the pandemic. So numbers could be suppressed compared to other years. But when these numbers were pulled together, you realize very, very, very quickly, so you realize very quickly here that there were 15 movies. But when you look at it, look at the top. The very first movie was called High Mom. And the last movie was Evangelion. The last movie, Evangelion, here. Now, what you're saying is, these top 2 or top 3, let me add the top 3, but actually I'll zero in on the top 2. You notice that the top 2, High Mom and Detective Chinatown 3, their performance compared to the rest. Actually, I feel very bad for the movie called Impasse. The reason is it came in at number 4. So if you were to look at Impasse, our movie came in at worldwide box office rankings of number 4. It's not a bad position to be in, right? It's not bad at all. But then, when you look at what number 1 and number 2 had in terms of revenue, it just pales in comparison. I mean, Impasse pales in comparison with number 1 and number 2, and it's not proportional at all. It's not linear at all. You would have expected. I think my mom made like $830 million, and then Detective Chinatown made like, I think about $680 or so million. Now, compare that to Impasse, struggling to even make 200 million, right? So the drop from the top performance to the average performance is massive. Although you would think, oh, it's number 4 or number 5, because when you look at the difference between number 4 and number 5, number 6, there isn't that much. But the difference between the top performance and the number 4 to number 15 is way, way high. Number 15 made like $77 million. compared to $832 million. And that, my friend, is what I'm talking about. So why do high performers get compensated this much? Or why can you not afford to stay mediocre? The reason is that it's human nature. People typically don't have a lot of time. Neither do they have the knack to take a lot of risks. So when it comes to the choice of service or product, they will typically default to the tried and the tested. What the market says is the best. That's what they will go for. Right? That is why companies like Nike and the rest don't struggle to sell their products. That's why there are a lot of Coke related drinks in the market. But the overwhelming market leader, or the in terms of revenue, has always been Coke. Right? Because the market, typically, people are lazy. Right? Naturally. Nobody wants to go spend their time now researching a new person and also risking it. So people will default to, I don't have enough time to go and research a new entrant in the market. I don't have enough stomach to risk getting a new guy on the block or somebody I've never heard of before. So they will go for who is tried and tested. Who's on tried and tested? So I've worked on many projects before, and sometimes I need to recruit contractors or outsource some of the projects to on-demand platforms, Fiverr, Upwork, and Guru, and all those kind of places. And most of the time, is selecting an outside contractor for a project. I typically go in, and I've done this many times, spent several tens of thousands of dollars on projects of that nature. Now, if I do that, I do not typically go for somebody who is new in the block. Yes, they need help, that kind of thing, or they may be good, that kind of thing. But look, they've not been tried and tested. So what I do is that I go for who is rated 4.5 stars and up in what they need to do. Right? Maybe I need an AI person. I need a front-end developer for something. Am I going to go for somebody who has no ratings, 0 ratings, nothing? No, I won't do that. So I go for 4.5 stars rating, and then I go for somebody who's completed similar projects before. Typically, they spend a minimum of, let's say, 1,000 hours doing that project. That's what I go for, because the market tells me who to go for, because I don't have the time, neither do I have the stomach to risk my project for somebody I don't know. So that is how the market rewards exceptional people. Right? And why? Why is that way? Because exceptional people are scarce. Scarcity brings out value. So whatever you are doing, the best thing to aim for is, am I applying myself to be the best of the best of the best in the category that I find myself? If you are studying to be a graphic designer, or if you are an artisan, if you are into carpentry, auto mechanic, are you exerting yourself to be the best in your area? Are you the best? Because best means scarce, and scarce means value. I remember I used to work for a company, PZ Cousins International. It's a British company, and I was working in their office in Manchester, in UK. When I went in there, I noticed that in the function, or on the floor that I was working on, I was actually, I think, the only black person there. So, and in the finance department, obviously, I was the only minority there as well. But one of the things that I set myself to do was I was going to be the best at what I did. I wasn't higher up in there in the finance department. I was just a management accountant, right? So I decided I would be the best. So I developed my skill in those times. This is quite some years back, talking of 2004, 2005. I would be the best in Excel. So I applied myself to it. I was study like I was going to write some thesis or doing a final paper in an exam, right? I will do that, and I will apply. Anytime I learn something new, I will apply it on my job. I will learn, I will apply, I will learn, I will apply, I will learn. It got to a time I was so proficient in Excel that I ended up being the go-to person in Excel. I ended up the one who was helping other colleagues in Excel. I went on to write even a book on Excel. I knew all the shortcuts and the tricks and everything. So I even wrote a book, I think it was 101 basic tricks or 101 shortcuts in Excel and beyond. Right. And I ended up distributing that book, or that actually an ebook, to my colleagues at work. What would I do? That positioned me as an expert in that area. And the company could not get rid of me. I had to leave on my own terms. When the time came for me to leave, I left. Although I was a minority, but I applied myself seriously to the task. I've seen so many young people just want to get by with lousy things. And in most developing countries, quality is scarce. In as much as quality itself globally is scarce, but in developing countries, quality, if there's a word, I will use scarcia or scarcer, right? If that's a good grammar, but I don't think it is, but I'll use it anyway. Quality is scarce. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, am I going to be the best at what I do? I'm just going to be lousy. If you are lousy, you'll be thrown in the pack. If you're best, you rise to the top. And as I showed you in the box office scenario or the movie scenario, the first or the best get rewarded. Not in a linear way with the rest, but they get disproportionately rewarded. Disproportionately rewarded. When you write exam, one of the things that we do as normal human beings, that whenever we hit a stumbling block or we hit a difficulty, we tend to skip over. There's nothing wrong with that anyway, because exam has finite number of minutes or hours that you can write them. So you don't want to be bogged down and be thinking and scratching your head. So you typically will jump onto the next easiest one, so that once you finish all the easier ones and there's plenty of time, now you can sit back, relax, and then the creative juices of your brain will come and you'll be able to most of the time answer the difficult questions. But for most people, they will just skip the difficult questions and just go and complete whatever they could complete in the time. Look, those who skip questions, or those who skip the difficult questions, they are in the majority. Those who skip the pressing questions are in the majority. And because they are in the majority, there's very little demand for them. So your job is go on and face the difficult questions, and you will put yourself in the minority. And once you are in the minority, you are going to be rewarded heftily. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. And I've put a link here for another video like this. I want you to watch it. And if you want more content like this, so that anytime I publish content like this, you will get to know about it, then subscribe to this channel. Click on the bell icon too. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.